Happy day, everybody. We are going to specifically talk about the new Authentisign today. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through just some demo stuff to play with on this. And ultimately, as I almost always suggest with the Authentisign product, it's best that you do some yourself, just so that people, so you have a way of what it looks like for your consumer on the other end. Now, the newer version does have a little bit of change to it, so there is that to contest with as well. So just something to be aware of as you move forward. So first thing always is your Authentisign is only available through Transaction Desk, so everything you do will have to be brought through this particular application. And inside, the first thing you'll notice is on your dashboard. Okay, so when you log in, the first thing you're going to see is your dashboard. Now, yours may look like this. It may look like something completely different. You have the full opportunity to essentially work through the dashboard and create it in however you want, right? So you can do that by hitting the little lock button on the top side. When you unlock it, you will see you get all of these tools and resources up here that you can potentially create your dashboard with. Now, for me, I made it really simple and just kept it the way that I like it. I like to know my signings over on the right-hand side. And so from here, you can see this is the actual new thing. You have a classic, which is the older version. And then you have the new one as well. The one thing I like about the new one is this status right here as it relates to everything that's going on. So the cool thing about this, though, is if we walk you through the classic one here, you'll see the only way you really kind of know what's going on is you have to click into it, right? Versus the new one, it'll actually tell you on a quick glance it's completed. That's one of the reasons I like having my Authentisign module on my dashboard and then my transactions for quick, easy access, and then the pieces here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into the demo. Sorry, wrong one here. So just kind of walk you through into the signing. So when you click the Authentisign icon or the little pen on your dashboard, right? Again, you'll still see that you have the classic version, which is listed here, and then you'll have the new version, which is listed here. Again, one of the quick glances here that I really enjoy is just this little dashboard piece. Tells you that it's completed. You can see I have one down here where it's in a draft status, 0 of 0 completed, 3 of 3 completed, 2 of 2, right? So it's really actually pretty handy on that quick glance. You don't have to do as many clicks deep into the system. The last thing you can do is actually kind of click in here and you can hover over your show participants and it will immediately tell you, oh, Chad and Christy, both check marks, life is good. So that's one of the other quick things I just really like about the newer version is you can get a quicker assessment on where the signing is as it moves forward through everything. So that's one of my favorite pieces. The other side of this, you guys, is you can use Authentisign for any kind of a legal document, right? Obviously, what we use it mostly for is real estate transactions, but you can, a couple of you I know do leases, right? You lease your own properties. You can use Authentisign to send that off. The tricky part there is you just have to make sure that the documents don't have anything to do with Coldwell Banker. Otherwise, we run into some licensing law stuff there. But anything you do on your own, you can also send through here and have a great experience. So just to walk you through, the first thing we're going to do is come up on the top side here, and I'm just going to hit add. Anywhere you see add or you try to move documents from Transaction Desk to the Authentisign application, this pop-up is going to come for at least 6 months is what I was told. Where if you are really comfortable with the classic version or the older one, you can use that. Or if you'd like to use the newer Authentisign, you can click New Authentisign. Thing we're going to come in here, we're going to say, let's see here, signing demo test. So you're going to name your transaction or your signing, sorry. And again, this is something that will show up in an email. Okay, so your consumer will see this as it is. So I'm just going to kind of show this to you. You can then also assign it to a transaction, right? So one of the nice things is the ability to consolidate all of your electronic stuff into a transaction. And we've gone over that a couple times. I'm going to throw this in the demo transaction just so you can see how that kind of moves into there. So the next thing it's going to do is it's going to walk you through the new widget. Now, the old way that you used to do this was a more of a linear approach, right? You would start, you would have the 4 steps, if you remember, top to bottom. And the same thing holds true, except for now your steps are kind of laid out over here, right? So we start by always adding our signers now. Then you start by adding documents, and then you can work through your tools and your layouts if you have any. So the first thing you always are going to do is you're going to start to, you're going to obviously look at this and you're going to say, okay, the signers, is there a signing order? Okay, so you can say yes if you want to. What's this? So the signing order is somebody must complete the signing before the next one. Okay, so if you think of it, it used to be called simul-sign, which would allow all of the signers to sign the document at the same time. Otherwise, it would be sign in line, is the old phrase where if Betty and Barry Buyer are signing a purchase agreement, and I said I want Barry Buyer to sign it first, and once he signs it, then the email gets sent to Betty, then Betty will sign it, and when Betty signs it, then I'm going to get my final one. Versus simul-sign, or now what they call, or now is, which is just the default, which is always my preferred. Barry and Betty are going to get that email at the same time, and they're going to be able to sign the document at the same time without having to wait for one or the other. So it's just a way to expedite the process a little bit. Now, if you need a reason to do that, like one of the things sometimes people do is they say, well, I want my attorney to review the document before I sign it. Totally fine. You can then add the attorney as a reviewer. They would be a participant in this particular transaction. And then once they approve it, then it would get emailed out to the rest of the parties. So there is some uniqueness you can do there. Now, as far as participants, right? So the first thing you're going to do is you have to add people who are going to sign the documents, right? So as an example, let's just, I'm going to use Betty and Barry as an example here, right? So Betty and Barry Buyer and myself are going to sign, let's just do the buyer representation contract, right? So of course I can add myself. So I can click add myself, and then my signing details kind of come up here, right? First, last name, and then you can determine the role, right? And so the reason the role field here is going to matter is because it's going to determine where exactly the auto layouts are going to be, okay? And so I'm going to say here, I am the selling agent, okay? Then the next thing it's going to do is you can add it to the contact list or add to a transaction. So if you're doing something brand new and you want to add yourself, again, consolidating communication, you can do that right here by adding to contact list or to the transaction. And then your remote signer. So the next thing is the signer type, right? So this, again, the remote signer is somebody who has an action that they have to complete, such as signing a document. A reviewer is somebody that has an action to complete. They have to review and either approve or reject the documents. And then your CC is kind of the new way a lot of us are getting purchase agreements, because a lot of times you'll add a listing agent as a CC or a carbon copy. And what happens is at the very end of the transaction, Betty signs the purchase agreement, and if I have all of my documents and if I set it up right, everything should be in one signing, and then CC will automatically send that to the listing agent, right? So you can set those different roles up, or anybody else that you want to receive a copy of the signed documents. I had a client last year, first-time homebuyers, they wanted their dad to have a copy of every single document they signed. That's totally fine. I just set dad up in the transaction as a carbon copy recipient on all Authentisigns or digital signatures, and away they went. So that's kind of the difference between those three. In this situation, I'm going to sign the document, right? And then you can customize it here, right? So if somebody has a different signature, or, if their name is Leonard, right? Leonard, but he signs everything Leo, right? Well, you can change that to be Leo in that instance. So if somebody has a different formation of which they sign, you can do that, but it doesn't change their legal name. It just changes how they sign it, right? So that way it's a little bit more in line. Any questions on this section right here before I add the other signers and move on?
Is there another reason why you'd have a buyer sign first and then the next one sign? Is it just personal preference?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's personal preference. And like I said, really only if you ever wanted somebody to do a full-on review. It's possible, maybe Mrs. Buyer is an attorney. right, and is familiar with contracts, and Mr. Buyer sort of follows the lead of her, and as long as she signs it, I'll sign it, kind of a thing. So maybe you want her to do the initial sign off. You could that's a way to do it. Usually, I try not to get into it. I just say, hey, I'm going to send it to you. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, you guys sign it when you're ready. And when it's I always, because I like to add some different language and stuff. To the listing agent, I'll actually do a custom email to them just to let them know. But then that way, all of that sort of automates it. That's the reason I don't really use it. I just kick it out and let everybody sign it. But if you ever had a need, you could do that where you sign them in order or set signing order.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any other questions on that one?
Brandon, what if you had somebody that had a trust? How would that look like in that custom? Where would that show up?
Yeah. So then what you would do, that's a really great question. So I'm going to add myself. I'm going to come back and I'm going to add a new person, right? So that's actually a really good example. So one of the things you could do, I'm just going to say, so Chris Southmaid. Okay. So I'm going to put your email in here. You are, for the purpose of this, I'm going to say you are now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky. This is a really great question, by the way. I'm going to add you as a seller, because the reason I would do that is because you would be signing on behalf of the trust, whether it came through probate or assignment or whatever. You would be the authorized signatory on the trust documents, right? So then that way it would map to the purchase agreement and everything else appropriately. Then what I would do is I would come down, and under the custom signature, here's where it gets really kind of long and irritating, but you might come in and say, Chris Southmaid, signatory for the, I'm going to make this up, right? The Southmaid family irrevocable trust. And obviously I spelled irrevocable wrong. I'll fix that. And away you go. So then now, Chris, the way that would work is that now when you sign, right, or when the person would sign, they'd click the box, instead of just saying their name first, last, it's actually going to place this custom signatory. Okay. The other thing you could do, that sometimes comes up, right? Attorney in fact for, Chris, I don't know your mom's name, but I know my grandma's name, and I'm going to say Beverly Southmaid, just pretending that that's the person on the document or whatever, right? So if you had a POA, like a power of attorney or something like that, then you could change that so that you could digitally sign on behalf of that person with the signature that's required by the power of attorney, because most of the time they say attorney in fact, right? So that's where you could add that custom language. It doesn't change so the top side is the individual, right? Like who that is, then what are they doing? And then the last one is there anything special? I'm going to say 90% of the time, you guys, you're not going to change the custom signature. You're not going to add a custom signature. You're not going to add custom initials. But if you ever needed to, you sure could. Does that make sense, Chris?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, cool beans. Great question. Great question. Okay, so now I'm going to jump back to adding my friends Betty and Barry. So I'm going to say Barry Buyer here. Barry at, and I'm just going to say, Barry's email here. Barry is a buyer, right? And he's a remote signer. That right? So that's all I had to do. First, last, email, what's his role, and assign him a signer type. And it's going to default saying he's a signer, which is great. So now you can see I have two people inside of my signing right now, which is pretty awesome. And you'll also notice one thing I really like that they started doing was color coding. And I think that's a really handy piece too. So now I'm going to come back and I'm going to add one more. And I'm going to say Betty Buyer. Betty Buyer here. Betty Betty is a buyer and she is a signer, and I'm going to hit save. So now you can see I have all 3 of these guys right here. Okay. So that's how you go through and you start walking through adding your signers. So you're going to add everybody who has a signature line on the document. So if you're sending the well disclosure over, well, you're only going to probably use Barry and Betty. You're not going to, you yourself or I am not going to sign that. Any kind of the transactional documents, I am. Then I'm just going to show you, look what happens when I toggle the signing order, right? So to see how it adds, you can say, well, Brandon's got to sign this first. Once he's done, then Barry's going to sign it. Once Barry's done with it, then Betty's going to sign it. It's going to go in 1, 2, 3. And if I don't like that, I can pick up my little double snowman here and I can drag it. Maybe Betty is, going to be signer number 2. I'm going to sign it first so that they know that I'm committed to the terms of the agreement. And now Betty's going to review it. Once Betty is done and signed it, then Barry, by their relationship, they know that he's going to sign that right after that, and I'm going to get that. Otherwise, if I just take that off, everybody's going to get it at the same time. Doesn't matter at that point. All right. Next thing, document. So now you can see I'm just going to start moving down the side here, okay? And the other thing, you can also then use the next button, okay, up top here, and it will tell you what you need to do. So you'll notice that it says, please add at least 1 document to this signing. So it won't let you click next until you walk down the side here of adding your signers, and now I'm going to add my documents. Okay, so what document are they going to sign? First thing you'll notice is the transaction loads, okay? So I can use any form that I've brought into that transaction, or a document that I've uploaded into that transaction will all appear right here. Okay. Otherwise, if I have something else, I have a custom form, maybe the VA or an FHA addendum, right? That sometimes comes from the lender, right? You get it as a PDF. Well, I can come right here and I can search for the document to load up on into the piece. You can also, if you want to sync to Google Drive, right? So our company operates on the Google platform. If you're using our at cbcrown.com emails, you can actually link right here. If you're a Dropbox user, you can link right there, OneDrive or from Box too. You can also do an email upload, which I think is kind of fun, because then what it does is it says, oh, email whatever document to this email address, and it will auto dump that thing or that document into the signing. 99% of the time, you're just going to upload from your desktop because most likely you've saved whatever document to there. And then, of course, any of your specific documents, if you've uploaded into Transaction Desk a specific document, you will have all of that stuff here. Okay, you can see I don't have anything up there because I don't really care. From the transaction, I'm going to go back here. Let's say we're doing a buyer representation here. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to add my agency form. And you see in the background how it loaded that form is the first one. And then I'm going to add my buyer representation form here, and I'm going to click that add button. You'll watch the background of the screen. You'll see it's kind of loading and spinning and doing its fun things. And there it is in the background, right? And so now I've added the 2 forms that I care about right now. And I'm going to hit close, right? And so now you'll see now the signing maps. Remember, each signer, when we assigned them a role, this is where the mapping feature comes in, because now it says, okay, well, who's who in this situation? So the forms that you've loaded require roles. Tell us who's who. So now Barry is itemized as buyer 1. Betty is itemized as buyer 2. Landlord, seller, tenant are all in the ignore status because they're irrelevant. So we're going to say ignore those mappings, but Barry and Betty are my buyers. So then what I can do is once we do that, and for some reason, if you get this wrong, you just hit this drop down and you can select the other signers, the other people that are in the transaction, and then you can hit ignore if for some reason you don't like that. So what I'm going to do is then I'm going to hit the blue button that says assign signature blocks, and then it's going to auto map. There you go, right? BB sign here and BB sign here. Now, this is one thing that did change, and I'm not a big fan of this. It's giving you the initials of the individual, of the signer, on the block. So this is not an initial block. It is a signature block here, but you'll notice it's color coordinated. So if I go back to my signers, you'll notice I can say, oh, okay, Betty's blue, so Betty's here, and Barry's green, he's here. Okay, super cool. And then I can start scrolling through the documents down here, right, using the bar here. And the other thing to notice too is on the documents, just to come back here, if you want these in a different order, right? Like I'm kind of particular in how I like to order my documents when people sign them, partially because I want to make sure like buyer compensation is signed before the purchase agreement, because that's the way the contract reads and state law reads, right? Like we've talked about before. So as an example, if I was doing a purchase agreement, I would make sure my buyer compensation disclosure document is the first thing they see, the first document before they get into any of the purchase agreement stuff. And same like we ordered signers, we can grab the little double snowman over here and we can reassign them, and you'll notice that will all change, right? You can also come in and say, oh, actually, I want my agency form to be number 2, and that will auto change that way. So you can drag or you can reorder however you want. I do think orientation makes sense personally. So if you have other documents you want to add, you'll hit the blue button, add a document or form. This button that says assign checklist, we don't use that feature. Don't worry about it. Okay, it's kind of fun. So all right, so I'm going to scroll down. You'll notice, oh, so this next page here, okay, if I would have filled this out with any kind of content, it would have preloaded, right? Like if I would have put Barry and Betty's names in the form, right, in transaction desk, that would have come over. Same thing with the rest of the contact stuff here. But the one thing you'll start to notice is it's in the queue to get fixed, and I apologize, but you'll notice the initials don't auto map, right? So one of the things we're working with the great people at Lone Wolf right now is to try to get our mapping back on this, and because they're so backlogged, we can't get it in time. So when you have a document where you need to do that, then you're going to come down and you're going to hit this tools button, right? Now, tools, you'll see that first thing you're going to do, this is where you're going to pull signature blocks, initials, check boxes, so on and so forth, right? So if you actually wanted to, you could have somebody come in and you could choose, right? You'll see all of your people color coordinated here, and I'm going to select Betty. You'll notice all of my boxes change as well, right? So I know that I need my buyer initials here, so I'm going to click on initials, and I'm going to drag that baby right over to where I want it, and I'm just going to drop that down. I'm going to come back to Barry, and I'm going to grab the initials, and I'm going to drag that over, and I'm going to stop that down. But I also know in this situation, Betty's kind of the decision maker, right? And so I'm going to let her prove to me that I was right, that, maybe I want her, they want me to arrange for the closing, right? And they also want to verify, that they're looking for residential personal property. Now, one of the things you can do here is you can add all of these and just allow them to check one. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second here. Okay. So I'm just going to add a couple as an option here so you can see how that looks. So I have that page done. Now I'm going to scroll to the next one. Okay, well, I'm now going to say, well, Brandon, I know that I'm going to say Brandon's going to decide here on dual agency. And I know that I need to sign this thing, right? Oh, and you can do this text line if you forgot something and you want somebody to write something in. I'll show you what this looks like. I'm going to just say, hey, Brandon's going to have this text box. He'll add the company name, right? Then, of course, I come down and I choose Betty. Then I'm going to choose Barry. And I'm going to have them sign this form as well. Then we're going to come back down to the signature page. Barry's going to sign here. And then this is kind of fun. You can actually pull in all the information in just straight fields right here if you wanted to. Right, so I can drop his email address down there if I wanted to. So I have all those kind of options. Same thing with Betty. I'm going to have Betty come in and sign. Maybe I'm going to bring her... I'm not going to bring her name in, sorry. So if you accidentally bring something over, right, you can click on it, and then you'll notice you can actually get the ability to scale this. So if you want to make it bigger, you can. You can redefine your sizing by hitting the reset. You can save it as a default. You can copy, duplicate, or you can delete, right? So if you accidentally bring something over, feel free just to, go, oh, I didn't mean for that to be there. That's okay. You can either hit the delete button on the right-hand side, or you can hit the little trash can right next to it. So you got a couple options there if you ever needed to make a correction. And then same thing, I'm going to come up, hit my name, and I'm going to say, well, Brandon needs to sign this as well. But I need to sign down here. My date's going to go down here. And then same thing, maybe I want to just mark this thing right up, right? So then you have all these markup tools right here where you can actually put content right on the signing without having to fill it out inside of transaction desk or having the person do it. So I could also then come back and say, I want a text box, if it'll let me here. What am I doing? Well, there we go. Sorry, that was kind of a delay on my side. right? So then you get this text box that comes in, and we can add the brokerage name here. And same thing, if I wanted to resize this thing, I can move this. I can grab that little arrow and you'll see it resize. Maybe I want this to be size 18. Oh, and now we need to resize it a little bit more, and I'm going to move it down. Right? So I can hardwire all that kind of stuff in there just as well as anything else. So now we can kind of do our quick summary, right? So I've gone through the documents, and I'm very aware that, okay, I got my signature blocks. They were good here. I got a couple options there. Same thing, you could come back and I could go, oh, you know what? I'm just going to add their names, right? Betty. Come down and click on Barry. I'm going to add Barry's name in here. Okay. Same thing with the text box. You know, I can come in and sometimes you're running so fast you forget to, you know, check that one box in the PA, or you forget to add in that one line. This is a way that you can do this and take care of it, right? So you could actually fill out the whole thing in here. It's going to be a lot longer of a process, but you could if you wanted to. So then once I do my verification, so I see the real estate agency form. Now all of a sudden I lost those blocks, and I don't know why I lost those blocks. Those original signature blocks. So I'm just going to come back and I'm just going to add them. Oh, there they are. Okay, so there we go. So we'll delete that. Something happened in the loading there, which is totally fine. So once everything's hunky-dinky-dory here, you can do a layout option. That's an advanced feature we're not going to talk about today. The option side, don't really worry about that for now. And the feedback, if you think something is, you know, needs to be improved or something needs to be changed, you can always submit that to them. Main thing, signers, the documents, and then the tools. Those are really the main three things that you need inside of here to make it function. Now I'm going to hit next. It's going to process this thing. It's going to say, oh, hey, cool, you're ready to rock and roll. Now you can hit send and just be done with the thing, right? And it'll send off, or you can do this custom invitation. And you'll see here that this is where you will get a custom invitation. So my email to Brandon is going to say, I'm going to show you, I don't know, test email signing, right? And then I'll show you Betty, and I'll show you Barry's as well here, just so you can see this. So this is Betty's buyer rep. And I'm going to show you here, Betty. If I can type, please sign this for our agreement. All right, I'm going to come down and I'm going to say Barry, and we'll say Barry's buyer rep. And now here's the other thing too, guys. You can actually save these messages. So if you have kind of a stock one that you want to send with purchase agreements or whatever, you can do that. And you can also import them too. So if you save them, let me just go back here and I'm going to say, save this message, type the name for it, buyer rep. Okay. I can save and exit. Then if I import it, then you'll see Barry's, that kind of a template, right, gets set up on the custom invitation. So hit close and I'll hit save on that front, customize them, and then ready, hit send, and your invitations have successfully been sent. It will reload you back inside, which is great. And now you'll see it showing participants, right? Okay, so now I want to show you. All right, so we said Betty. All right, so now you can see, so this is Betty's inbox, right? So Betty's inbox is going to show up and it's going to say, hey, this message came from Brandon. Here's Betty's buyer rep. You remember we put that in her subject line. So I'm going to open this thing up and the first thing you'll see is this is what it's going to look like. Okay. So you'll see we have our custom branded for the header inside of here. Here's the signing invitation. Here's the default message, right? Hey, Betty buyer, Brandon Johnson is inviting you to participate in a signing party. Okay. And you'll remember that signing name that we first set up. So signing demo, CBCR, see that right there. So again, don't put, you know, terrible buyer, Betty's dumb purchase agreement, right? Like don't do that kind of stuff because it will show up. They'll see it. Okay. And then here's the custom message that I gave them, right? So, hey, Betty, please sign this for our agreement. Cheers, Brandon. So you can add that. If you don't add that, it's totally fine. You'll just get a blank one. It'll just get the top line information. Please sign the document and away you go. So again, Here on the bottom side, this is the signature that I have imported inside of there. So if you hit start signing, this is what it looks like from Betty's side. It says, hey, by acknowledging, you acknowledge that you've read and agreed to the consumer consent disclosure, the lone wolf, and the supplemental stuff for electronic signatures. Yep, I accept. Way to go. Now, notice a couple things. Some fun stuff here. They can print or download the document if they don't want to sign it right away. Otherwise, they can hit the blue button to start, and then their options exist down here. So they can start it, reject it, so on and so forth as they work through the document. They can also click right on the form. Okay, so I'm gonna hit start, and the first thing it will do is it'll bring you to the first signature block for Betty. So she can sign that and go, yep, this looks like a great one. I like to do this on my phone and actually sign the name, which is kind of fun. Betty Buyer. Betty Buyer. And I'll set this for Betty. Okay, so then if we scroll back up, you can see there's Betty's signature as it loads, and then the date stamp automatically goes. I hit next, it brings me to the next one. It says, all right, Betty, which one? And this is where consumers, you know, hopefully know better, but we'll figure this out for them. But just to show you how this works, check all it applies. So they can tell me specifically, what are you looking for? Well, I want a residential personal one and maybe an investment property. I'm not interested in a farm. I'm not interested in vacant land. So even though we added those, she can come in and say, you can reject. So when you hit reject, by the way, sorry, I should cancel back. The reject button down here is going to simply reject the whole document, not a particular one. Okay. So next we'll say buyer wishes to have broker arrange for the closing. I'm going to click here to sign, click here to sign, click here to sign. And now these are actually, I made these a requirement apparently, which is why it's forcing me to sign these before I can complete it, right? So you'll see up here, 7 of 9 items completed. That tells me that I missed the check boxes there. When you're all done, this little box will come up and all you have to do is hit complete signing. And congratulations, you're all done. You've successfully signed that, which is super cool. Now, let me come back and let me show you. So let me click on signings inside of here and, oh, I gotta go out and then let it reload. Notice I get an update here. 1 of 3 participants complete. Betty has signed and completed. That's pretty cool, right? So now we can come back to Betty's inbox. We can delete her message, right? So there's Betty's one here. Life is good. And we already deleted that one. So that's pretty awesome. Okay. Now, let me go back here. So now we're going to log into Barry. We'll log into Barry's email here. So here you go. Barry's buyer rep. Okay, so he opens up. Barry says, oh, okay. Yep, here it is. Thanks for signing the agreement. He clicks start and away he goes. Same thing, the acknowledgement. So the reason I show this to you, because I think it's important for you to know what does your consumer and your client see, right? Yep, I accept that thing. I'm fine. Barry says, I'm not going to do that. I'll just do that. Sure, that sounds great. So then he's going to sign it and sign it and sign it, and he's done. He hits complete signing, and he goes, oh, holy smokes, that was pretty awesome, Brandon. And you go, yeah, it was super awesome. So we come back out. And you'll see here now 2 of 2 is completed. So now you can come back and you can see that it's sent, right? So even if I go back to my dashboard, and what's really nice about this is if you open Transaction Desk on your phone and you have the widget set, this is now what you will see. So I can say, well, I sent it to him. You guys just haven't completed the signing, right? And I don't even have to log into the transaction or go that next step further. I already know, okay? And then back on, now you can see, so what's happening, I haven't been authenticated and I haven't approved the document. So I'm just going to go do that really quick for you. And you'll see this is my side here. I acknowledge, I accept, start, boom, boom. There you go. Oh, and I have that one and I am done, right? And then lo and behold, the documents will come all the way back out. And now you'll see it says completed, right? And now in my inbox, I'm going to get the option to download the signing documents, or I can come in here and I can view the signed PDF. I can view the certificates, or I can copy to the cloud, or you can duplicate or delete it, right? So if I want to see the signed PDFs, I can click that and away this baby goes. And there is my fully legally binding agency document, and then of course all of my stuff as it relates to my buyer rep with Betty and Barry. Real high level, real fast. Not super fast, I guess, but questions? Okay. Well, it's pretty simple. Not a lot to it. It takes a little bit of time. What I always recommend: send your from your business email. Send an agency form for you to sign electronically. Just get yourself kind of used to it. Get yourself comfortable with the new process, so that when you are in that time crunch and that pinch, you're not trying to figure out how to do this. So send yourself something to sign. Keep it simple. Send it to your personal email so that you got it and you can see what it looks like. Because the one thing that it is kind of nice is that, and if you've been using the other Authentisign, you'll get an email every time somebody signs something, right? So anytime it's signed and completed, you'll get another version back in your email, so you can kind of keep up with it. But if you're like me, I don't need 18,000 other emails coming in a day. I'm fine with just the one that tells me it's done. And so that's where having this ready to rock and roll on your phone and this quick little look to tell you, yep, it's completed, and it's awesome. So that's kind of the high level piece. If you guys got other questions, you can always reach out. Otherwise, if you got other areas that you would like some training on, as far as tools and strategies and things like that, that's what I'm going to kind of use Thursdays for moving forward. So last call for questions before I let you go. All right, rock and roll, you guys. Hope you have a great day and happy selling. We'll talk to you soon.